Picture it, Sicily, 1928. I'm sorry. Let's try that again. Picture it, Bologna, 1985. You're experimenting with a relatively new technology, VHS recording. VHS tapes are expensive, so you're going to record a brief snippet of whatever's on the air, which in this case is a program on an Italian TV network called NTV. Little are you aware, you're about to start a search for one of the most bizarre and twisty musical cold case searches ever. Perhaps ironic then, that it seems that this song comes from a program called The Spiral Staircase. It's time for Lostwave case file 0317740. You owe me satisfaction. The person recording that VHS tape will eventually upload that recording to YouTube under the username Marco Sabrini, who says the song is by La Giacchette Volante, or The Flying Jackets. It's here where I'm going to briefly stop and apologize for all the times I'm inevitably going to botch Italian throughout the course of this video. And oh yeah, like, subscribe, and all that stuff too. Anyway, later, another YouTuber named Slipkenny seems to identify the TV show on this recording as La Scala a Cioccolia, or The Spiral Staircase, supported by, well, the Spiral Staircase in the background. This is a show that aired on NTV from 1983 to 1985, which also gives us a frame of reference for the song. It also gives us multiple leads to look into. There's also a question about the song which remains to this day. Was this song, which would qualify as Italo disco, a parody of the Italo disco genre as a whole? An incredibly popular genre at the time, the low-budget production and kind of just overall cheesiness of this video could indicate it being a parody. Of course, it could just simply be low budget. We also questioned if one of the two men in this music video could actually be the host of the Spiral Staircase, Gilberto Rovelli, though the original poster seemed pretty certain it wasn't him. Oh, yeah, that's right. The original poster actually provided a lot of additional information, like he still has the original VHS tape, he couldn't remember if he recorded this in the morning or the afternoon, and he seemed to indicate that the name The Flying Jackets was simple poetic license and would consider joining the FMM server. Later he tried to, but after having some displeasure with two-factor authentication, he didn't, lead us to communicate with him somewhat less directly, though he has joined other Discord servers, so I wouldn't read into this as any sort of sign of a hoax, more as a sign of someone who, for whatever reason, doesn't like two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is awesome. Anyway, let's move on. We did contact Gilberto for those wondering about that. And either some random account found additional information about NTV, as well as at least some indication that some NTV programming may have been archived, and contacted the likely manager of those archives. That manager, Enrico Palazzo.
Hey, it's Enrico Palazzo!
I'm sorry, I mean Enrico Pontieri, got back to us, explaining that they did own the NTV archives and they were searchable, but didn't have actual program lineups, only daily TV schedules. So this is like knowing SNL aired on a given night, but not having any idea what the sketches were. It's bet in all likelihood that it'd be less likely that we'd actually find who was on the Spiral Staircase on any given night, though we figured it might still be worth it to visit the archives at some point in time. But we'd have to do that in person in Italy. Also, let it be known that for a while we were less than sure what the cartoon after the You Owe Me Satisfaction clip was, as there was only a brief glimpse, but after the original poster suggested a cartoon called Mordio, it turned out it was, in fact, Mordio, specifically episode 60, Dirty Trick. It was also pointed out that the song before You Owe Me Satisfaction on that VHS tape had also been identified, in this case as Edawet Alek by Hassan Asu Sayoud, and I'm also positive I'm butchering that. Anyway, after that, Pancake pointed out a Reddit comment that suggested Maurizio Torelli, a producer of some of Ravelli's albums, Italo Disco, and, notably, a person that has a song registered on SIAE, the Italian Musicians' Rights Database, a song called, get this, No More Satisfaction. Meanwhile, a group of Italian Lostwave searchers investigated a lead, a group of musicians and comedians that appeared on NTV called Grand Pavesi. And later, some random account would reach out to Maurizio Torelli, but he would find out that after some research, it would appear that Maurizio was actually not as solid of a lead as it seemed. We also reached out to more people known to have worked at NTV, including NTV's artistic director. We even searched beyond people working at NTV, like reaching out to a journalist who wrote an extensive article on NTV. And a person that worked at NTV, Nicola Perrone, responded to some random account, providing additional context that led us to believe that wherever You Owe Me Satisfaction came from, it was likely that NTV didn't produce it. It was at this point that the Discord forum post about You Owe Me Satisfaction closed, because You Owe Me Satisfaction had been given its own dedicated channel. And we continued to contact pretty much everyone we could think to contact about the song, including Fabrizio Coliva, who did a documentary on NTV. They also did not recognize the song, but they said that they'd follow up with others that might. It was around this point in time that both Pancake and some random account started doing serious deep dives into the history of NTV and the programming on NTV, and found a documentary called, I'm going to totally butcher this as well, Quelle Antenne su Teddy, or Those Antennas on the Roofs. Turned out that this documentary would be a history of the broadcasters in the whole region where Bologna was, and there was a brief section on, well, what I guess I would call telemarketing. You know, those videos that are saying, you know, you can buy this awesome spatula for $9.99, and if you buy it now, you get a second one for 1 penny. Anyway, turned out that Mascalia Ciliochia, or the Spiral Staircase, would be one of those programs, meaning that in all likelihood, You Owe Me Satisfaction didn't actually air on the Spiral Staircase, despite the fact that there's a spiral staircase in the background. But it's there for a reason, and I will get back to that. Meanwhile, on October 1st, users Slothereen shared that 9 days later, on October 10th, they'd be visiting the archives where NTV materials are held. Meanwhile, one of those Grand Pavesi artists I mentioned, Stefano Bioschi, replied that he too didn't recognize the song, leading Basketry to comment that some random account was going to get in contact with literally everyone that worked at NTV at the time and still not solve the song. And I feel this on a personal level, as I did the same thing when investigating the British Forces Broadcasting Service when investigating Take Us to Dreamland. And if you'd like to hear about that, well, first off, prepare for some self-indulgence, but also, yeah, let me know in the comments below. Come October 10th, Slothereen shared that they'd visited the archive as planned and had found way more material that could be perused in one day, and found some interesting materials and people potentially worth contacting about You Owe Me Satisfaction, although nothing that would directly, immediately impact the search. Also, we got a reply from an individual that some random account had reached out to. This person had been featured in that NTV documentary I mentioned. This user provided a ton of new, useful information about NTV and the Spiral Staircase, like the fact that the Spiral Staircase was produced by Gilberto Rovelli himself, along with a production company, likely the same one that he'd used for his other program on NTV, based on a non-traditional screen bug. That's the little logo in the corner, don't you know? And that corner was known as Video 1. Video 1? I'm just going to go with Video 1. By the way, here's where I'm going to loop back into that whole, this video is not from the Spiral Staircase. Well, it may just be that they were sharing a set, given the fact that it's likely the same production company. Anyway, we tried to get in contact with the people at Video 1, but they haven't got back to us, at least as of yet. Sadly, Gilberto hasn't gotten back to us either, so now we've started branching out again, like a user named Paolo Viper Fieri, who appears to know a lot about NTV. Oh, and that backdrop that I just mentioned, well, we actually looked further into it, because it turns out that someone had actually recognized that background in a show called Video Vercelli, hosted by Ezio Grigio, both are very famous in Italy and almost certainly have nothing to do with Yomi Satisfaction, but it's possible that the same person made the backdrop or that backdrop was shared by the same crew. It's kind of a bit of a head scratcher, but it's interesting, at least mildly worth noting. So what's next for Yomi Satisfaction? Well, again, some random account will certainly contact about a dozen or more people who somehow all don't recognize the song. But in all seriousness, it's anybody's guess. It's oddly so interesting to me that this kind of kooky clip on a random VHS tape in the hand of an Italian media fanatic has such a deep and perplexing mystery about it. It does remind me of a story, actually. You see, back in St. Olaf, you know what? Never mind. I'll say, thank you for being a friend. Oh, and until next time, I'm PersonOfDistraction, and I'm now listening to.